Hello, welcome to another video. I am in a different location today. I want to try out filming more in my office because I've set it up in here to be a perfect filming location and I never actually use it and I always film in my lounge, and actually I want to film more in here, so we're gonna film today's video in here, see how it goes. So we have a different backdrop. Welcome! So today's video is going to be a continuation on from a previous video I did. So I did a video about YA books to help get you back into reading or get you out of a reading slump, and I asked if you'd like to see the same thing but with adult books, and you said yes. So I have 10 adult books here to help get you out of your reading slump. I've tried to pick 10 kind of different books that will help depending on what you're in the mood for, so hopefully there is something here for everybody. I'm just gonna jump right in. So the first book I'm recommending is Tom Harper's The Book of Secrets. I think I read this one at uni and I can still definitely remember the vibe and the atmosphere it gave me and how addictive it was, which is why I put it on this list. This follows a woman who has uncovered a secret that has been shrouded in this 500-year-old mystery, so it does have that historical element. And once she's uncovered this secret, she then goes missing and no one knows where she's gone. So they pull in this guy who happens to be her ex, I think, if I remember rightly. Yeah, he's a researcher for the FBI and they broke up 6 months ago, and now because of his job role, which is I assume maybe how they met, he is the only one that's going to be able to find her. It kind of goes into a couple of cliches in that sense, but this is a really fun mystery. I really enjoy the clever elements in it and the suspense, but also I love the way that it so slowly unweaved itself. I think that's what I really remember from it, as well as the way that the reveals happened and that you were like, oh my god, that's so cool. So yeah, I don't see this one ever really talked about, so hopefully this may be one that you haven't necessarily come across before, and I think this one could help because whilst it is bigger, it's very fast-paced, very action-packed and just really intriguing, and I think mysteries are always a great way to get out of a slump because you just want to know what's going to happen next, so you keep turning the page. To a completely different genre, we have Sophie Khan is Not Obliged by Aisha Malik. You've probably seen me talking about this one a fair bit over the last year because I read this, I don't know, mid last year maybe? It's a duology, it's a contemporary romance, and I absolutely loved it. It's very funny and just what you need if you are feeling slumpy and you just want something nice and easy to sink your teeth into. This book follows Sophie Khan, who works for publishers, and her boss asks her to write a book on Muslim dating, and she has to go on some dates and do some research to get this book written, and of course in the process she finds love. I love everything about this book. It's a very quick read because you just feel like you fall in love with Sophie Khan as a character and you want to find out what happens to her. The fact that it's duology means it's not too daunting, so there's not too much crammed into this one book, but also we do still get a bit more of a conclusion to her life than we do just at the end of this book. But I think out of the two in the duology, I definitely preferred this one for reasons I will not go into, but it's a really, really good fun series and you'll just absolutely love Sophie Khan as a character. This next one is again completely different. They are all very different from each other. We have My Sister the Serial Killer by Ianka Braithwaite. This is a very short, very intense thriller following the main character of a sister who is a serial killer. So she is cleaning up for her sister and basically protecting her sister and helping her get away with these murders that she's doing, whilst at the same time trying to maintain her own life and balance all of this. This is incredibly unique in the way it reads because normally we would be following somebody that is like the actual cause of the main events in the book, whereas she is just trying to clean up and have the repercussions of what's happening in this book, and is also maintaining this life with a really powerful career, and she's a very strong female lead. And it's just brilliant. I really loved it. It's got very short chapters and it's a short book itself, which is again another reason I'm putting it in here, because I think if you are in a reading slump and you're looking for something that's not too daunting, this is definitely something you could read within a day, I would say. I think I read it within an evening before. I can't remember if I listened to the audiobook as well as physically reading it or not. It was really good. It was very addictive. The fact that the chapters are so short means that it definitely has one more chapter syndrome, but also you kind of want to know what's going to happen. Is the sister going to get caught out? What is going to be the end to this? Is she just going to keep being a serial killer, and why is she doing this? There's so many questions it raises, and I think that's always a sign of a good book because that's when you want to keep reading because you want to know the answer to those questions. And I just really liked this one, so I think this is definitely one that will help get you out of a reading slump. I couldn't film this video and not put in a Taylor Jenkins Reid book, so I'm putting in Daisy Jones and the Six. Now I was looking at all of the ones I've read, which is Malibu Rising, Seven Husbands, Daisy Jones, and One True Loves. And the reason I put this one in is because of the way the story is told and the way I think it's quite addictive and Moorish. This follows the band Daisy Jones and the Six, and the story is told through interviews, which is why I'm putting it in here, because I think this format makes it really interesting and a bit of a different read. But because you are reading their descriptions of what's happened through their dialogue in these interviews, you get a very different perspective and a much more personal angle, because it goes between each member of the band giving their version of events. I guarantee you, when you've read this book, even though you know the band is fictional, you will still Google the band and you will want them to be real. I'm very excited that this is being turned into, is it a TV show or is it a film? I want to say TV show, because we will be able to hear this music, which makes me very, very happy. I just think it feels so real, because it's the interview element of it being told through that way. It really does feel like you're hearing about actual events, which I think is a fantastic trait of a very, very strong book, and I think you'll love this. It'll definitely kick you out of your reading slump because of the format, but also it's just something a little bit different. I've seen so many good reviews for this book and I think it's hard not to love it. So if you've not picked this one up already, I do hope you enjoy it if you do decide to pick it up. Next up we have The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. This is a contemporary and historical fiction. It flips between two different time zones. We have our modern day and then the 18th century. In our modern day we are following somebody that has had to get away from her life a little bit. She's come to London and she has found this little vial from an apothecary that she ends up researching into. At the same time, we're then seeing the story from the 18th century where we get to see the origin of where this vial has come from. It's basically come from this woman who helps women be rid of the men in their lives that are causing them some kind of issue. It's a very feminist story in a rather extreme way in some places, but it's also this great investigative story as well, as this main character researches into the past at the same time that we're seeing it all play out, which is a really interesting narrative structure. It's again quite short, so I think this will be a good one to beat a slump because it's not too intimidating, but also it's just so fast-paced and fun, and I think because it goes between the two time zones, it again makes it very hard to put it down, because you want to keep going to get back to that time zone and find out where the story goes that you last left off at another chapter. So very, very good book. I absolutely loved it. I think this is a debut novel as well. It's fantastic. This next one is one that I absolutely adored when it came out, and I just don't really know why, but I've not really spoken about it much since. It came out in 2020. This is The God Game by Danny Toby. This is a sci-fi, but a tech-based sci-fi. It follows a group of people who have got involved in this game that basically starts controlling their lives, and it starts telling them to do things and deciding what they do, hence the name The God Game. And it's a lot wider than just their group that's involved in it. This was very interesting. The way it brings in the gaming technology and the kind of futuristic element there is fascinating, but also I could not put this down. The things that this game tries to get them to do and the extreme levels of it, this feels like an episode of Black Mirror in a book. What I would say is there is a lot of dark themes within this book, so if you are going to read it, do have a look at those first. It's been 2 years since I read it, so I wouldn't be confident saying what they all are because I can't remember the exact details. I can just remember the overall story and the way it made me feel, but I just thought it was absolutely amazing. It was very unique, and I think because it felt like an episode of Black Mirror, it just felt completely enticing and also terrifying at the same time of like, could this actually happen? I guarantee if you like this kind of thing and if you've looked it up and you think you'd be interested, this will absolutely keep you gripped. It is incredibly addictive, it is very fast paced. It kind of gave me the same vibes that Ready Player One did in terms of how quickly that book progressed and how much you wanted to see what the next stage was going to bring, and also with that level of like the gaming and the tech kind of thing. And I just thought it was really good fun, so it has to go in this list because I never ever talk about this book and I don't know why, because I really liked it. Okay, next up we have Staracre by Andrew Michael Hurley. This is again another thin book. Thin books are good for defeating the reading slump. This one is not going to be for everybody, but I found it very compelling and I found the writing style very addictive to read. And despite the fact that it is a lot more like atmospheric focused and a little bit more lyrical than action packed, I still think this is a really good one if you want to defeat a reading slump, because if this is the kind of thing you like, then I think you'll really enjoy this. This definitely has elements of gothic horror to it, and it follows a couple who are going through the loss of their son, so it is quite dark for sure, but there is a bit of a magic element to it, and there's the different ways that they're dealing with this grief and what that transforms to look like. It's definitely got some creepy elements and will make you feel strange things because of the experiences that they have. It's very weird at times, but I think if you're into this kind of darker, weirder side of fiction, then I think you'll definitely enjoy this. But yeah, please be aware this has some very strange things happening in it. but it's still really interesting. Next up is Ruth Ware's One by One. This is an isolated thriller and I bloody loved it. I cannot stop singing this book's praises. If anyone wants a thriller recommendation, this is the book I'm recommending to them, and I think this will absolutely cure any reading slump you're in. It is incredibly addictive. It follows a group of people who are on a work trip to a ski resort and they get snowed in and start dying. So there is a murderer among them and it's up to them to work out who it is, and this gave me so many chills, so many spine-tingling moments. It was just brilliant. I think any book like this is going to make you want to just keep going because you absolutely have to know who's done it and where this story is going and who's going to be safe. But the fact this one's got the isolated element to it as well, and it's this group of people that kind of clash and have all these different reasons that they might have killed somebody else in the group, it just constantly keeps you guessing on the edge of your toes, and I just think it's absolutely brilliant. So I would highly recommend this to get you out of a reading slump or get you back into reading. Then we have Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. This is another contemporary to historical fiction, except this one actually takes place because of time travel. So this follows our main character who is living her normal life in the 1970s and is then, for no reason that she is aware of, thrown back to the early 1800s where she is confused as a slave and treated as such. So our main character is thrown back in time. She has no idea why it's happening, and she's basically always centered around this one specific boy slash man who basically needs her, and she goes back in time when he needs her, but she stays for different periods of time each time she's thrown back, and it's about how she adjusts to the life that she is suddenly thrown back into and how she kind of has to explain why she's there and the way that she is treated. It's a really interesting perspective to read this story from because we're seeing her from the 1970s where she has read about this history and studied it, and then suddenly she's literally thrown back into it and has to experience it firsthand. I just thought this was incredibly brilliant. I've never read anything like this and I would recommend it for everyone to read, but if you are in a reading slump, I think this will get you out of it because 1, it's very unique, 2, the style is addictive, and 3, you just need to know why she's being thrown back in time and get some kind of resolution there. It's fantastic. And finally we have Kate Davies in At the Deep End. I absolutely adore this book. I used to talk about this a lot and I kind of want to reread it now. Haven't spoken about it in a video for a while, so I felt like it was about time. This will 100% get you out of a reading slump. It is so funny, it is so fun, it is just exactly what you need when you are feeling slumpy, and it's just absolutely brilliant. This follows our main character who's having pretty disappointing sex with men, and she realises that maybe she might like women instead, and this is about her going down that journey and exploring her sexuality. It's just brilliant, it's so open, it's got some real funny moments in it, and I just absolutely love the narrative we get from this character. I think, as I said, if you're slumpy, you will love this. It will pick you right out of the slump. It's super good fun, and I just love the fact that we're exploring this with this character, and just brilliant. So much fun. I can't wait to read more by this author. I feel like when I read this, I read somewhere that she was writing another book, but I can't remember if that's actually come out or what the story of that one is, but I need to research into if she's written more because this was fantastic. I feel like I've said all of those books are fantastic, but they are. So those are my recommendations for 10 adult books to help get you out of a reading slump or get you back into reading. I would love to hear your recommendations down below, so do drop them if you have any in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did like it, please do give it a thumbs up. As I said, comment down below what you would recommend, or if you've read any of these, what your thoughts are. Subscribe to see more of my face on your feed. You will also find my Patreon link down below. Thank you so much for watching, keep smiling and stay positive.